Hello, 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 everyone. How's it going? What we saw each other like what 5 hours ago, I guess. Let me just. Yep, perfect. And yeah, hi, welcome, everyone. As I had said, please do register. Let me remove this, and we are live. I was trying to do a dramatic entry, but unfortunately that failed. I had to like as soon as the timer ended, I wanted to remove the banner and then just come online, and that didn't happen. Anyways, hello, hi, how's it going? Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so now let me just. I think I definitely had background music on. It's been somewhere. Okay, there we go. Now that should be good enough. And yep, as I was saying, welcome, and welcome to part four of building your own Chrome extension project. And we have done so much till now that it is just like a feat, definitely. We started from the very scratch where we did not have anything, like no project, nothing, just an idea. And by now we have reached a point where you all can actually build your own backend routes, backend schema slash models, build a Zustan store, integrate it with front end, and get it up and running. I think that's a major, major, major feat, right? Wouldn't you agree? And with that, before we went on, I don't know, 4 hour long break, like 4 hours ago, I had my last commit, kind of. So 4 or 5 hour long break, and here we are after that 4 5 hours, 5 hours, I guess. Yes. And before going on that break slash stopping the session, or the end of third session, I had asked you to complete the use link store use link store.js file, which is a store file, and also create a use qa store. If you have not been able to do it for whatever reason, you can find the code on github right now. So let me just start by sharing the github link in the chat. Once again, if you have not registered for this session, this is session 4 of building your Chrome extension, then please do register. So here's the github, and here's the registration link. Okay, please, please, please do register. Really helps. Really helps me and helps you get points, right? So, okay, moving on. If you're joining me for the very first time, let me give you a very quick overview of what we have done so far. So we actually started building this Chrome extension. We haven't reached the extension building part yet, which is the aim for this session 4, that will at least get the extension up and running, or see how to add it, how to create this extension. Because till now, what we have done is we have created a backend route, a front end route, and yeah, but nothing about the extension. So let me show you how the backend looks like. So this is our backend up and running. This is our getting our projects, and this is our all projects front end. So we have done this till now, and yeah, this is all we have done. Now, what I want you to what I want us to do, actually, sorry, not you, us to do, is to kind of create a Chrome extension that we can load here in the extensions and test it out. Now, before we do that, uh, as I was talking about a quick overview of the project. So this is what we are building. The idea is that when you are creating a new project, all the resources that you go through to create the project, you can store it at one place. And once you have done the storing, you can also share it with someone, or you can come back to this for future reference. Okay, so that is what we are building. We are using MongoDB Atlas to actually store our data, so it will be there always, kind of. And yeah, that's it. That's what we have been doing. Now, there's one thing I realized, that I have made a teeny tiny mistake in the project. I don't know if anyone caught it yet, but if you did, very well done. If you haven't, then let me tell you. At the end of session 3, I was too pumped up, and I kind of gave a solution of how you can build your own use link and use QA store. What I forgot to point out was that currently, if I go on one stop extension and click on view details, it shows me these two data. I've updated the data a bit. Go back, go to project, and this is a separate thing, a separate project route, but it is still fetching the same data. So it is not exactly filtering by project ID. So only the resources that are related to that particular project should be shown, and not everything. So that is a teeny tiny boo boo that I made. So I have to fix this. uh, and I know how to fix it. Oops. Yeah, I know how to fix it. uh, So let me just show that to you. Uh, yeah, all I wanted to know if someone actually realized that we made that mistake, that teeny tiny mistake. Uh, if you haven't realized, that's fine. Even I didn't until like when I was trying to push the use QA store, and I was like, wait, why is it not filtering? And I realized, oh, I did not write code for it. Okay, anyways, so our schema still remains the same. Uh, Also, there's too less light, so I'll go away from screen. Otherwise, there's like light on my head, and that will distract you. So our schema still will look the same. So our backend models are going to look exactly the same. No filtration there, of course. Uh, but our routes is where the change will happen. So we had this create a new link route. Uh, so that will remain the same. The get all links route. This is what needs to change. So with project filter, we'll add this project filter thing. So we do a router dot get, and we go on this slash route, and in the try catch now there will be one change, and that would be we need to get the project ID that is coming. So we'll take the request dot query and filter out the project ID, okay, that the user is passing. So what will be the project ID? So if I click on view details, you see this random string that is there, that will be the project ID. So we need this project ID, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const query equals to, if project ID exists, then in that case project colon project ID, else empty. Okay, so I'm passing this to this particular property. So this property, if you remember in schema, we have this project. Okay, so I'm passing it to that particular project. Okay, and now in links I will say await link dot find, and now find based on the query. Okay, so do a filtration on the query, and then dot sort created at this, and everything else remains the same. Okay, okay, so this is when we try to get all the links. Now we specifically want to filter it out based on the project ID. Now similarly, a change needs to be made in the QA routes. Get all QAs with project filter. So this is fine, the try. Then we will try to get from the request dot query. So dot query is the query params. Okay, and we try to get take out the project ID, and then we will do const query equals to project ID. If that exists, then in that case pass it to project, else don't pass anything. So so that field, getting a project ID is kind of a what do you call, it's an optional thing. And then now we do qa.find, filter it on the query. Perfect. So that is the backend change that we need to do. So now our data will be returned filtered. Okay, it will only return the links and the question and answer that correspond to the project ID. Okay, from the backend perspective. But from the front end perspective, we still need to make a change. So let me close these two. So from front end perspective, where we had the stores, so we need to make a change in the store. Okay, so in the use link store, links is fine. The fetching links, when we do the fetch, okay, in this case what we want to do is pass the project ID. And now we'll say const response is equal to await uh, axios.get the response on this API URL, but we will pass a param, okay, a query param, and that will be the project ID. If that exists, then pass the project ID as a query param, or else don't pass anything. And then this would, once you receive the response, then that will be set here. Create link should be fine, update link should be fine, uh, delete link should be fine. Similarly, in the QA store, when we fetch the question, now it will get a project ID as a parameter, and in the response, when we do this thing, now we will say params is actually project ID. If that exists, then pass it in the query params as project ID, else pass empty. Okay, perfect. So now let me do a quick refresh. Let's go back to project. I'm on the home page. Let me come back on screen. And now if I go over to project one, this shows empty, okay, because there is no details for project one. So that's why it keeps on loading. If I go back and I click on view details for this one, for this project, this has two details, okay, so two data exists for this one. So that was one of the filtration that I had forgotten, but now we have it. So now we are only returning things relevant to a project. So okay, what else can we change? We can kind of make this a teeny tiny bit better. Like instead of showing a loading, we could kind of do that there is no data. I mean, that is one of the options that we show. Oh, there is no data, unfortunately. uh, I'm thinking, should we spend time there? Let's do that. Let's make it clean very quickly. So we can make that change inside the project info. Okay, right here we do back, and then here we show the loader, right? So we can kind of make a quick change here, saying that links and links dot length triple equals to 0, so there is no link available. Then in that case, what I want to do is show a text with size, I don't know, XS, okay, the smallest size. Text comes from Mantine, and let's just say no links yet, okay. Else we are showing the data, so we can kind of get one more level of nesting. We'll say links and links dot length is 0, then that means no links yet. Else, uh, if links exists, then in that case we will show the links data, and we can do another else here, and then show the loader. Okay, so we have done like two question marks here. Okay, so we are doing like two if conditions sort of. So now let's go back and see no links yet. It will show this instead of just showing the loader, it will now show the text. We can improve the text, of course. Improve as in like style it a bit more. I can align it to center, let's say, uh, from y-axis no spacing, so 0 spacing. Yep, there we go. Similarly, we can do for the question answer, the questions. Okay, so let me cut this first, and I can copy this right here, and we'll say no Q and A yet. And here we will say questions, then in this case this, else loader. Okay, perfect. So now it will show a text saying that, okay, this one does not have any links or question answers. But if we go to the the one stop extension one, it will now show, oh yeah, there is a link. There is also a Q&A. So yeah, this is where we have reached so far. Any questions, anyone? Anything? If not, let me quickly push this updated code where we have kind of refined our mistake. Not much changes. So, thanks to our modular code that we have been writing, it was pretty easy to make that change, pretty quick, and it does not affect everything. Okay. So, that's the idea of writing code that is kind of better from get go. Okay. Yeah. Pretty simple, small changes. Let me do a git status, git add, git commit dash m. We actually did a bug fix, but we fixed the link and QA filtration. This is session 4. So now if you go in here, you should now have session 4 fixes. You can also check all the commits that have happened so far. Oh, I have 4 stars for this project. Nice. Thank you so much, people. All those folks who have started, and I have 2 forking as well, which is nice. 2 people are actually forking this repo and working on it. Pretty cool. Appreciate that. uh, Appreciate both. Like, thank you for the stars and thank you for working it out and working on it on your own. Okay, so the fixes are in. Now let's go to the major part of this session, which is the Chrome extension. So we haven't built the Chrome extension yet, so let's start with that. Okay, let's at least get something in our extensions store right here. We will do some iterations. We'll try and understand what is going on, how does it work. uh, yeah, so let's do all of that. Okay, so step one, uh, we could do two things here. Okay, so one thing is we can make this front end project a Chrome extension itself. That is good. The only problem I feel in that is our front end project is more responsive towards the web. Okay, not responsive, it's more aligned towards web, which means that things are going to be bigger and like more visually appealing to say, and it's going to have much more functionalities as we build on. Like, we will have UI which would be like, this big, and it will have more colors to it, it will have more features to it, functionalities to it. So that is our front end. Now our extension, on the other hand, it's going to be small, it's going to be teeny tiny. What that means is that we need to put in less and less amount of colors in that, make the text small. Like XS would be our new normal. Okay, SM and XS sizing is what we will kind of use and play around with. So if, yeah, everything would be too small, too tiny. And I feel that instead of making changes in the front end folder for that, we should technically make a change in the, like, we should create a new one and make changes there. Okay, so that's the belief that I have, and I'm going to go ahead with that. But don't worry that all the code that we have written in the front end, does not go to waste, and you will find that once we start building it. So it's not like we have to start the extension from scratch. Thanks to React and thanks to the modular code that we have been writing, most of it would be pretty reusable. Other than a few styling changes, the stores and everything else would be pretty reusable. Okay, so let's do that. Let's do npm create read latest and one stop extension template react. So I'm going to paste this command in chat. Like first, let me run if this actually correct command. Okay, it is correct command. So now let me paste it in the chat. So this is the command that I want you to run to create a new folder. We have run this command before as well, if you remember, when we created the front end folder. Okay, so pretty similar command. The only change is the name of the directory. We are calling it one stop extension. Now let's go through some cleanup. I'll start from the topmost. There is a wheat.svg. Don't really need it, so I'm going to remove it. In the source folder, there is a assets folder. Don't really need it, going to remove it. App.css, not really needed, remove it. App.jsx, don't need all of this, so going to remove it. Don't need this. Don't need all of this. Just a simple hello should suffice. Index.css, again, don't need it. Main.jsx, don't really need the reference to index.css here, so this goes away. I think this is good. Okay, this is all that we need for now. Git ignore, we don't need it because we have one in the root, so get rid of it. ESLint config, actually not really needed. I'm going to get rid of it. We'll keep it simple. Index.html, I'm going to rename this to popup.html. Okay. The reason is that it will help us differentiate, and also popup is what you would find as a convention across the other projects that work with this. So yeah, that's the only reason. So doc type html, this is fine. Well, this icon does not exist, so that goes away. And here now this one is interesting. So normally the meta tag says that the content width should be equal to device width, and initially it should not be zoomed in. We need to make a tiny bit change here. We will say that the width should be 400, like will not exceed 400 kind of. Initial scale is 1.0. Also no zooming allowed, so maximum dash scale is also equal to 1.0. And we will say user dash scalable equals to no. Okay, so we are making these few changes in the meta tag, so that the idea is that ideally it will stays whatever, like not exactly zoomed in, not exactly zoomed out. It would stay at its normal 100% width, and even user will not be able to zoom in because, well, there's no space to zoom it in. Then if you want, we can have another meta tag as a description. So name description content could be like one stop extension, manage your projects and resources. Okay, just some simple description. The title, we should change that to one stop extension. Oh, that reminds me, did we change the title ever in front end? Oh yeah, it is called one stop extension. uh, I'll call this one stop chrome extension. Okay. ID root is fine, and this one is fine. Yep, cool. Readme, this is the chrome extension, so one stop chrome extension. So that's the only thing that I'm going to write here. uh, this is fine. And wheat config, now this one is interesting, so I need your like 100% attention, please. uh, Let me remove this. Let me come back on screen. Now, wheat config will change a bit. Number one, uh, we renamed the index.html to popup.html. Wheat by default will look for index.html and try to resolve that or load that file. But since we don't have index.html anymore, uh, we have to make a bit of change there, right? We'll need to change what is being loaded, which file is being loaded. Secondly, the build, okay, that needs to change a bit. So let me show you what the build looks like currently for the front end. So I am inside the front end folder here. Let me close all of it. So front end folder currently has node modules, public, source, and that's it, and some files. Let me run the build command. Okay, npm run build. This will create a dist folder in the front end repository. And now the dist folder, it contains assets. So it contains one index.html, and that refers to now the uh, JS file. This is all the JavaScript that we have written, kind of boils down to or compiles or bundles, okay, to this. Okay, so this is the JavaScript. It contains everything that we have written, okay, in just what, 68 lines. So it's a minified version. And all the CSS that we are using, most of it comes from Mantine. Not most of it, actually, all of it comes from Mantine. So this is all the CSS that we are using, okay, in one line technically. So yeah, so this is what happens when you run a build. Remember first session or second session, we talked in depth about uh, how at the end of the day a browser will only recognize a HTML file, a CSS file, a JavaScript file. Now index.html definitely existed, and that was exactly what got copied over. The only difference is that the script line kind of got removed, and instead what happened was the script moved up, and there was a index.js created, okay, with all our code. The But it's we did not have index.js, so this is the default name that gets created. It also has this some weird characters here, so this is kind of a hashed character. Okay, so just to keep the file name unique, uh, we'll need to get rid of this when we do our extensions. We'll need to tell Wheat that please don't create files with these random hashes. Secondly, even for the CSS, we did not have any index.css in our code base. All we used was Mantine CSS, but that got compiled to or transpiled to a index dot dash some random name dot css file. Okay, and this is all that we need. So if you run this, if you open this in, actually I can kind of show it to you. Let me cd into the dist folder, and now in the dist folder, if I try to go live, okay, so this is what we end up with. uh, this is coming from our index.html in the dist folder, and this is the default thing that gets loaded. Now we can make some adjustments to actually show the content. I'm not going into details, but ideally this is what happens from a browser's perspective. It tries to load the index.html, finds the corresponding JavaScript, finds the corresponding CSS, adds it, loads it. Perfect. Okay. So now removing all of this, not making changes to the index.html that is auto generated. Uh, yeah, I was talking about how we'll need to make a few changes. One is to tell Wheat that, hey, do not create these random characters. I want my file names to be exact so that it's easy for me to understand which file is getting created. Okay. So, yeah, with that, let's go into our Wheat configuration and start making certain changes. So define config is fine. I would say React is fine. What we will, I'll remove this line. Don't really need it. Export default define config is fine. Plugin React is fine. Now I will say public directory. Is it really needed? Actually, it does get copied. Not really needed. Ignore it. Build. Actually, let me add it. So what does this line mean? So I'm not sure. Read JS. Yeah. So this. So the directory to serve as plain static assets. So if we define this file, and it is by default public, but I'll still specify it. So these are the static assets that will be copied over and displayed as is, okay, without any changes. So without adding like some hashing or transpiling, it's kind of copied as is. So by default it is the public folder, but I'll specify it explicitly so that when in future if you have any questions or if you get confused like how is it happening, you can take a look at this. Output directory, it needs to be the dist folder, which is again the default but still specifying it. Now roll up options. So Wheat internally uses rollup, and in rollup options, so rollup is the one that actually goes in and tries to, add that random characters. So we will say, like in rollup and in input, we will say that there needs to be a file called as popup, and what I need you to do is resolve the path of it. So actually we'll have to import resolve from path. Now path is available by default because it's a node.js thing, so it will be there. Okay, so resolve and underscore underscore dir name, which is the directory name, and in that find the popup.html. Okay, similarly content, we will say resolve, and we will say that in the current directory, go inside the src folder, find the content.js. Okay, so this is another thing, or let's call it content.script.js. So this is another file that we will create inside the source folder. Let me create it right now. Okay, uh, so this is the script that will be injected into our popup. Right now it will not do anything. Not popup, it will be injected into the web pages that open the popup. Right now it will not do anything. All we'll do is console log. The second thing that we want to define is the output. So in the rollup, we have kind of given some links to the input. Now, for the output, I will say entry file names. So keep the we want to keep the entry point file names simple without any hashes. So we can do like it should be name dot js, and similarly the chunk file names. So this is again going to be name.js, and this is to keep the chunk file names without any hashes. So this helps in referencing the files in manifest.json that we will create inside the public folder. So technically, uh, to create a Chrome extension, all we need is a manifest file which defines which HTML to load, which JavaScript to load, and that's it. Okay. Now, when we have created this whole input and output and we try to keep the name proper slash simple slash exact without adding any random hashes, we will take those file names that get generated in the dist folder and we will reference it in this manifest JSON. Okay. So that's our build done. Now there is another thing that I want to do, which is the server. So this is another thing. uh, so as I said, by default we will try to open index.html, but that does not exist anymore. So we have to tell it to open the popup.html. So slash popup.html, and we can also define a port number if we want. I'm 5173 will be used by our front end folder currently. Yeah, 5173 will be used by this. So we can tell it to use 517 of actually 3000. Okay. That used to be the default port where React app used to open. So I'll some nostalgia there. So server should open popup.html and the port would be 3000. Now, currently, which folder am I in? I need to go inside the one stop extension folder and let me do a dev run. Oh, I have not done a npm install yet. So that means I have to go into my package JSON and as always, just remove everything, every caret. From dev dependencies perspective, all I need is Vite and Vite.js plugin. These are the libraries that I'm not using. So I am going to remove most of it using React, React DOM, types React DOM. Version number I'm going to remove. Private true I'm going to remove. Okay, perfect. I think this is fine. Now let me do npm install first to install everything. And there is a question here. Missed the previous parts. Kind of extension are we building? So we are building something very similar to raindrop.io. It is a Chrome extension where you can save links, but we are building something which is more of a dev specific thing. So the idea is that an example that I'll take. When I started building this project, one stop extension, I definitely visited a few Stack Overflow links. I visited some blogs. I visited some Medium articles about, let's say, how to build a Chrome extension. I visited some documentation of Express, Mongoose, uh, Mantine. So this was my journey to build this Chrome extension. I will save all of these links, all of the question answers, all the code snippets, like, any code snippets that I found that was interesting, as part of one stop Chrome extension project. Now, this could be used by me as a like in future as a reference, or I could also share this list, okay, with someone else who is going on a similar journey. Someone else, like one of your friends, let's say, says that, oh, I want to build a Chrome extension. So you can pass this list that, hey, when I was building a Chrome extension, these were the things that I had to go through slash find slash research about. Maybe this will help you. So that's the idea, a rough idea of the project. Hope that helps. Yeah, you're welcome. Cool. So we have installed everything. Now let's do a npm run dev. Interesting. It should have ideally opened automatically. Ah, yeah. Let me try it again. Oh, it does open, but it opened on not the browser that I wanted to open. Should have opened here. Okay, anyways. Uh, so it will automatically open because we have said open true, but it opens on the browser which is not on the shared screen. So that's why it's, yeah. Okay, anyways. So that's kind of our initial stuff. Now, as I said, all the work that we have done will not go in vain. So let's start with the main.jsx inside the front end folder. And now let's go over in the one stop extension inside the one stop extension folder. And so what are the similarities between these two, or at least what can I copy over from here to there? So strict mode, yes, fine, this is fine. Then we created this browser router. I can actually copy that over from there to here, and this whole thing I can kind of copy that. Okay, so, oh, I have not installed these libraries, so how can I copy it? So let me actually also install the libraries. So I'll go into the package JSON of one stop extension and the package JSON of my front end folder. In my dependencies, I need Mantine core, Mantine hooks, Axios, React, React DOM, React router, Zustan. So basically all of these. Now let me do a npm install again. Oh, actually, technically, I don't even need this one. Also, use version 20. Please don't forget to use version 20. I'm going to do npm install once again. So that should have installed everything. So now I have node modules with everything. Perfect. So browser router, and from here, perfect. So this is fine. Now let's see my app.jsx from one stop extension, and in this one app.jsx. So again, we can kind of copy over nearly everything. So styles, they come in. Actually, let me copy the whole thing. Okay, so everything can technically come in as part of this project info, project list, project info. Yes, I think that is perfect. Then similarly, I can copy over everything inside this return. Okay, so all of this is kind of copied over again. The only difference would be that in the container, this is Actually, we'll take a look after a bit. So app.jsx, even this is done. What else? Now app.jsx needs to use or at least call this project list and project info. That is something that we'll need to create. So now inside my one stop extension, inside my source folder, we'll need to create the components folder that we had done before. And inside the source folder, we'll also create the store folder. I'll start with the store first. So stores, it has three files: use link store, use project store, use QA store. I'm going to copy all three, come over to one stop extension, paste them. Okay. So all three are kind of copied as is. Okay. No changes whatsoever, because all the store was doing was making a API call and saving the data. We still make the API call to the same endpoint, to the same backend endpoint. So nothing changes for all of these. So that's why I said, don't worry. We are going to kind of copy over everything that we have done so far. So it's not going to be a waste of efforts to create everything again from scratch. The only changes that we will do in the next 1 hour would be some CSS changes to make it more compact, adding it to the Chrome extension store, at least in developer mode, and testing it out. And once that all is done, then we'll go over to the code snippet storage, because right now we are only storing the links and the question answers. We are not storing code snippets yet. So we will try and finish code snippets storage. And yeah, that would be the end of session 4 for the day. And then session 5 and session 6 will be focused on authentication mechanism using GitHub. So we will try to use GitHub auth to authenticate ourselves, authorize ourselves, and sorry, I thought there was a fire alarm going on in my vicinity. Uh, yeah, session 5 will be focused on authentication, that we definitely need to add, that I definitely want to add, because that would be something new, kind of, and unique. So that is one of my things. And once the authentication would be done in session 5, then we will focus on uh, form. Okay, so currently our front end does not have any form like architecture where we can input something. All we are doing is doing a read. Okay, every data is currently entered from the backend API using hopscotch, and then we just kind of read that data and show it on the UI. So we need a form like architecture on the front end, where you can kind of enter input boxes, where you can enter stuff. So that is my focus for session 5. And session 6 will be about deployment. Well, because this is cloud week, right? So we will deploy our project, we'll deploy our backend, we'll deploy our front end, and we will see how to publish the extension, because actually that requires teeny tiny amount of money to publish. And also there is a process. So we'll talk about it. We'll not end up deploying it, but you can if you want to. Okay, so that would be our session 5 and session 6. So coming back to this one, let's complete session 4. So all our store has been copied over, so that is fine. Now in our components, we need to create what we were creating before: project info and projects. So you know what, I can copy this, right? So I'm going to select both of these, come over to components and paste it. Okay, so that's our link card, project info, QA card, project list. Perfect. So now let's go over to this and do npm run dev. Okay. So there is one error. Let's see. Let's see. App.jsx, it's calling components. Yep, this is fine. This is fine as well. Fetching. Store is already created. What's the problem? This is inside the project info. Let's go over to project info. Oh, use QA store. Where did I paste it? It does exist and it does a default export. Let me remove these two first. Use link store. Okay. And use project store. That should be fine as well. Dot slash store slash use project store. Okay, so there we go. So this is where we have reached. For some reason, until I deleted and redid it, it was not able to recognize it. But okay, so a popup.html. Now there is this one problem. It is saying that this route is not found, which is so okay. What we are missing is kind of a routing because our base route has changed. Our base route is now slash popup.html. Let me come back on screen for this. So our base route is slash popup.html. So every other route will be after that particular base route. It's not index.html anymore. It's slash popup.html. So we need to change the route in app.jsx. So if I go over, no, sorry, in main.jsx, the place where we are importing the browser router, here we can give it a base name and say that the base is slash popup.html. So everything will come after this. So if we do that, then here we go. Our projects, we can see exactly what was happening before. Now there is one problem, which is that when we try to view the details, okay, it says the page cannot be found. Why is that? The page definitely exists, but again the base has changes. Okay, the base here changes and we'll need to fix this. Our base should be like, if I do slash popup.html slash this, that's still a problem. Okay, so okay, to fix this, the idea that I came up with and the solution that I Stack Overflowed was to actually instead of using a tag to do the routing, because a tag would actually refresh the page, we should use a link tag that is provided by React Router DOM, which does a routing without a refresh. Okay, so this view details button, it should be in the project card. So in here, so these are the mini, like minor changes that we'll need to do. So here we were doing this button with a component which says that use it as a tag. Okay, so this we need to change. Uh, Now what we could do for this one is, let me think. We can just wrap it in a link tag. Yes. So remove this component and this thing. And let's just use a link tag from React Router. We'll say 2 equals to, it would now be slash dollar curly brackets project dot underscore id slash info. Okay. And link tag would be closed. Oops. Oh, forgot to close it. Yeah, there we go. So now our link tag will wrap our button, and everything else should be the same. So let's go in here. Now I click on view details, and there we go. It now reroutes us to slash something slash, okay, after the popup.html. And we can also do a back. For this one, it should say no links yet, no Q&A yet, and back. Okay, perfect. So we have got our project up and running, our one-stop extension up and running actually. At the same time, if I go over to our front end, which is right here, so this should still work as is. Okay, we did not need to make a change in the front end folder. That works as is. But the one stop extension, because the base path has changed there, we needed to make some adjustments. Now let's build this one out. Oh, before that, no, actually, let's build this one out. We still need to create the manifest JSON. Okay, that is still empty. You cannot have an extension without a manifest. The latest manifest version is version 3. So let's build this. So this should create a dist folder, and in the dist folder we will have a popup.html, a popup.js. So instead of having a random file index dash some blah 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 .js, it will now create a popup.js. A content.js is created, okay, which is something that we defined in Vite here, saying that there will be a content dash script.js, rename and create a content.js. We can call this, instead of content dash script.js, we can call it content.js as well if we want, uh, but I'll leave it as is. Console.log uh, one stop extension loaded. Okay, cool. So yeah, that will be our content.js. So let me actually rerun the build folder. So there we go, content.js inside the dist, and our assets will contain some random CSS, which is fine, I guess, for the time being. Not a problem, because that referencing will happen in popup.html. Okay, cool. Now we have to create the manifest. Okay, so manifest is currently empty. We'll need to make some changes, add some bit of code, not code, sorry, add some data in the manifest to ensure that our Chrome can recognize it. Okay, so let's do that very quickly. It's pretty simple, pretty intuitive, but I'll of course guide you along the way. So step one, it first needs the name of the extension. Okay, so name, I'm going to call it, let's say, one stop resource manager. Quite a big name. So we can also have a short name, and that would be one stop. Right, we can define a version number. So I'm going to say this is 0.1.0. So it's a beta release. uh, we can give it a description. This could be manage your projects and resources. SOURCES, yes, resources efficiently. Okay. Manifest version, this is very important. So the previous version of course was version 2, and any extension that is using version 2 is getting deprecated. uh, so we need to have a version, we'll go with the latest version 3. uh, then there is this action. Okay, now action is interesting. So what does this action mean? uh, So the action one, it allows us to define what will happen when the user click on our extension icon. Okay, and this is the one where we kind of define uh, our file names. Okay, so what is our pop-up and what is our icon? So action, this needs to be in a double inverted comma because it's a JSON. And here we can define default underscore pop-up, and this would be the pop-up dot html. Okay, so remember that in the dist folder Vite will copy over anything that's in the public folder, so the manifest JSON. So manifest JSON gets copied over to this manifest JSON inside the dist folder, and from this manifest we are saying that reference this popup.html. Okay, then we can also have a default icon. I'm going to go with a icon.png. Now I don't have an icon, so I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I am going to go over to my website, going to open image in a new tab. I'm going to copy this image, going to paste it in here, and I'm going to call it icon.png. Okay, so now this, not icons, icon. So now this icon will be copied over in the dist folder when we run the build command, and that is the icon that will be referred here. So this is the icon that will be shown in here. Okay, you can copy, like take any icon, any png file. If you have your own logo, definitely go for that. Okay, so that's our action. The next one is the permissions. Okay, so in the permissions, this is basically the list of browser permissions that our extension will require. So we will require probably the active tab to basically get access to the current active tab. Second, we should also be able to, like, we'll ask for access to other browser tabs information. Okay, which other tabs are open. So like basically I'm going to take uh, a few permissions, or a request for few permissions, not use all of them right now. Active tab definitely is something that we will use, it will be required by us, uh, because the, like, we can build a feature where based on the current active tab we can like kind of do a pre-copy of the URL before the user even enters, copies and pastes the URL. We can kind of read the URL and pre-fill it, so that, like, let's say I open a Stack Overflow link and I realize that, oh, I want to save this. So I open the extension, one stop extension. It should automatically read the Stack Overflow link and say, do you want to save this? Do you want to save this Stack Overflow link? So it takes away one extra click of copying the URL and saving it. Okay. Uh, Hopefully that makes sense a bit. So let's now, whatever you define here, always remember to use and justify the usage of it, because uh, when you actually publish the extension, Chrome will go through your extension, find any security issues, and it might not allow you to publish it if it thinks that, oh, you're asking for too much permissions which are not really required. So for the time being, I'll just add everything. But when this goes into a publish thing, at that time we should be careful of what we publish, or what access says we ask for. My nose is still blocked. Tabs. So these are the ones that we will ask access for. uh, Host permissions. Now, host permissions, it is basically to specify which websites can our extension access, and technically our extension should work on every website, right? Because we our whole idea is to save URLs, so we should not be like, this one should be able to access every website, this extension. So host permissions, and that would be an array, and we will say it is supposed to access all underscore URLs. Okay. And then we have content scripts. So these are the scripts that will basically run on the web pages. So this is the content script that you remember we created, and that gets converted to content.js. So this is for that. Okay, so content dash scripts, underscore scripts. So our content scripts would be an array again, and inside this we'll have an object, and inside the object we will say that whatever matches all, like, our content script can run on all URLs. For now, our content script does not have anything, but in future we can add stuff to it, like, reading the URL example. We can add some code to read the URL automatically. We can add some code to uh, shorten the URL. Like, much of the things could be done in this. We'll talk about it in session 6 mostly. So this references the JavaScript will be the content.js that will get created in the dist folder. And we can also define the type if we want. Actually, not really required. Okay, let's define the type. Module, that is the recommended type. And you can also define the author name. Give your name. I can go with like UT. And you can also define, like, if this is hosted, like if this website is hosted, you can have a homepage URL. In my case, I'm going to say the homepage URL is localhost colon 5173. That's our front end running on this URL. But once it's deployed, you can change this to whatever is your deployed URL. So I think this should be fine. Let me clear this and run build command again. So a build folder gets created. It copies over the icon.png. We have a manifest inside the dist folder, which has everything that we wrote. Popup.html, content.js, assets is fine, popup.js. Okay, perfect. So this is the folder. This is our extension. Okay, technically this is, and just this is what we need to add in the extension. So to add the extension, what you need to do is go into chrome dot slash slash extensions. Okay, so these are the extensions that I have. uh, so on your Chrome browser, please visit chrome colon slash slash extensions. So this will give you a list of all the extensions that you have currently installed. uh, I think this installed by Google. This was so that you see this very beautiful looking page of JSON. So normally this is what Chrome will show you, and if you pretty print, this is what it will show you. But if you have this extension installed, you can kind of color it. Okay, you have so many examples of how you can color it, what kind of uh, font family to use, bunch of other things. So, but this extension is made with version 2, and they have not specified their list of permissions that they are asking and what will they do with all that data. So that is why this extension is currently deprecated and it is harmful to use. uh, I don't remember why I added this. I have no idea. Probably one of the projects that I was building. And uBlock origin. Okay. So now when we want to add our extension that we have created, which is inside this dist folder, actually, let's go one step ahead. My output directory should be called one stop extension. One stop extension build. Okay. So my output should be called this. So I'm going to run npm run build, and it creates this one stop extension build. Uh, by default, it's not ignored. Why? Because only dist and dist-ssr is ignored. So I'm going to copy this name and I'm going to add it to the ignore file. Because, well, it's not really needed to be pushed to GitHub. Anytime you run npm run build, this folder will be created. Okay, cool. So I've also added this configuration that our output should be called one stop extension build. Cool. Uh, okay, so now to add it, we have to first enable developer mode. Once you enable developer mode, then you have to click on this load unpacked. Hopefully my screen is visible. So developer mode needs to be toggled on. Then you will get the option of load unpacked. And then you have to click on this and it will open your uh, file explorer. I don't know what this will open, so I'm going to take it away from screen just to ensure that it opens the correct folder. Okay, yes, cool. So if I click on load unpacked, and then it will ask which folder do you want to open. I want to open this one stop extension build folder. So I select that and it has loaded the extension. Now, if I go into details, all the details that we added in the manifest is here. And I can actually see this extension and the icon is here, the icon.png that I had added. And if I click on this icon, there we go. That's our extension. Okay. And if I click on view details, that's our extension. So we have successfully added it. It says there are errors. It says unrecognized permission. Oh, permissions. Oops. Not permission, permissions, I think it's called. Okay, no worries. Clear all. Go back to extension, remove the extension, and let me do npm run build again. That should recreate the one stop extension build. Load unpacked, one stop extension, select. Okay, details. It has all the details and automatically randomly generated ID, site access on all sites, where it is coming from. And now if I go over to all my extensions, I can pin the extension, click on this, my projects, refresh projects can be done, view details can be done, and hooray! So we have actually successfully added our extension. Any questions, anyone, at this point? So we need to kind of clean it up, first of all, because it's too big. Okay. I have a bigger screen, so still fine, but on a smaller screen, it's definitely bad. So we'll need to make changes in the UI. So I'm going to spend like next 20-25 minutes making changes in the UI of this. But other than that, we have successfully created and added our extension. Now there might be one question. Uh, Other extensions have an icon here, ours does not. So that can be specified, like we'll have to specify that by creating an array of icons of different sizes. So like icon size of 48, icon size of I think 16, 48, and 128. These are the three icon sizes that we'll need to create. uh, So instead of having just a single icon.png, we need multiple sizes. And even in the default icon, we can specify different sizes for the icons. So yeah, unfortunately, since we don't have that, that is why it's not loading it. We will do this again in session 6. Okay. For the timing, I just wanted to show how to create an extension, how to load it, and how to interact with it. Interaction was pretty simple and easy. Loading maybe took a couple of changes in our existing code base, but everything else loads just fine. Okay. Any questions, anyone? Anything? Okay, I'm going to take the silence as golden and I'm going to assume that everyone understood everything. Okay, cool. So UI changes. That's what my next focus is going to be on. Let me remove this highlight. So UI changes. Number one, uh, of course, this needs to be tiny, some bit smaller, so that you know we don't have this jumps. Right now, first it opens in a vertical mode, and then if you go into view details, it jumps into horizontal. It's a bad UX. We don't want this, so we want to make some changes. Secondly, if the URL is big, as we can see, this looks ugly. Okay, there's two lines, so we should be able to kind of reduce the size of this. uh, Too much padding here and there, the size. So this is more a website thing. The current sizing that we have looks better on website rather than looking better on an extension. Okay, so yeah, that's going to be my primary focus right now, making it more extension size friendly. So this is our popup.html. Let's start making changes, but before I do that, let me push everything that I have, so that anyone who is missing out on a step or two will have access to all the code. You don't have to copy my icon.png, you can use your own. Okay, cool. uh, oh, one last thing that I want to show you is if you right click on an extension, you can kind of inspect that pop-up. Okay, so it actually opened in, again, my another screen, but let me put it out here. So this is what it opened. So it opens proper web developer tools, and you can see like the whole extension that we have. So if you see any, so this is the popup.js file, the popup.html file, and any errors, like any console logs that you're doing, can be observed here. Okay. Okay, cool. uh what was I doing? Oh, I was going to push this code. Added one stop extension in session 4. So now we should have three folders, backend, frontend, and one stop extension. There we go. So the code is in the chat. Oh, just observe one more star. I like it. Helps my morale, boosts, not morale, boosts my ego. I'm just joking. You don't have to star it, but if you're doing it, it helps me. Uh, because I think on my main page, uh, it automatically kind of shows the ones with the highest stars. Seems like color palette generator has the highest stars for me right now. Then the second one is this AI ML week. We did a finance with Python where my stock prices prediction. It was actually really not for all of them. I think for three stocks it was just $1 here and there. Okay, I had checked it. So three stocks. I don't remember which three stocks, but it was definitely out of the 10 stocks that I had analyzed, like our model had analyzed in AIML week. You can find the code and the whole process, the video on the YouTube channel of Major League Hacking. Uh, but yeah, out of that, on Monday, three stocks were nearly like $1 or $2 up or down, depending like from our predicted prices. Uh, this one was the mini projects that we created. Yeah, we created a lot of them. Four projects. One stop Chrome extension. This is number five now. Mini SQL DB doesn't seem to be very popular. We created a database using JavaScript. Okay, our own SQL database using JavaScript. So yeah, I think I've done quite a few projects because of GHW. Okay, anyways, so the code is in the chat. You can find all the code of Unstop extension. So you can copy paste this or you can fork it. Uh, and then do a clone. All you need to do is go inside every folder, go inside backend, go inside frontend, go inside one stop extension, run npm install. So once you do that, it will create the node modules folder, which will install all the dependencies or all the libraries that are required. And then you can run every project by checking what is the command to run it. So for one stop extension and for front end, you have to run the dev script. For the backend, you have to run the server script. Okay, you can also run the start script if you want. Uh, and for getting the extension build, you have to run the npm run build command, which will do a build, like you run the vite build command, which will go into the vite config, check what are the build options, and depending on these options, like example, it will create a folder called as one stop extension build. uh, Ensure that these names are properly defined and not random characters are added to it, and then it will create the build folder. And once you have the build folder, then you go into Chrome extensions, switch on the developer mode, load unpacked, and load your extension, the one stop extension. The full name is right here. Okay, the bigger name. Okay, cool. So I think this is done now. UI changes. Okay, main.jsx does not need any UI changes because technically there's no UI on the main.jsx JSX file page. uh, app.jsx. So let's go into app.jsx. Now in app.jsx, there is one change that I want to do. I want to wrap everything in a div and give it a style, an inline style. I'll say that the width is going to be 400 pixels. The max height is going to be 600 pixels, and overflow is going to be auto. So this div would be the parent div even outside of the container. Technically, I think I can add this style to the container. If I go over to one stop pop-up, it's not running. Cd into one stop extension and npm run def. Yeah, there we go. uh it is quest. Okay, if I remove this div, I think it should still work. I think being the keyword. Yes. So because extension, the container makes it center line, but everything else will be defined by us. And there is our content script. Okay. So this is our final width and height, 368 into 492.98. We have set the max height to be this and width to be this. So this is fine. I can actually remove the div if we want. And also I'm going to make the padding to be 0 and margin to be 0. This looks weird, right? Margin, no. Padding 0, still fine. Okay, yeah, this is cool. So now if I check the width and height of this thing, yeah, pretty decent, I would say. Or let's say padding 2 pixels. Okay, let's start with this and let's see how it pans out. Okay, so that's our sizing defined. Okay, not going to be bigger than this. Then let's go into the project list. Okay, so now in the project list, what all do we need to change? Oh, also the container py is md. I want that to be xs. Okay, now this should be much better. So the padding on the y-axis should be xs, and the padding on the x-axis should also be xs. So actually, technically, then I can make p equals to xs. So padding on all sides should be xs. And you can also define it in numbers. So you can do like padding on all sides is 1. Okay, something like that. Now, project list. Let's start from the top container. So I'm going to say that this top container in the project list, it needs to be of padding 0, no padding to the top container. Then once we go down, there is a title and a button. Now they are in two different lines. They are just taking too much space, not doing anything. So I want them to be in line. Where am I making these changes? Inside one stop extension. Okay. So I'm going to wrap it in a flex. Flex comes from Mantine. So I'll take this flex and wrap these two in this. And in flex, you can define what is the gap between the two things. So like, let's say I want the gap to be XS, like the smallest. I want to justify them, like justify the content to be in center, ensure that they are aligned also in center. The direction would be in row, and wrap, like if it, why do I put comma? Wrap equals to wrap, and then I have the title, and I'm going to remove all of this and just say that the order is going to be 6. So you can either define order equals to 6, or you can do size equals to uh, from h1 to h6. Both of them do the same thing. So size is checked by default. If size is not defined, then order is defined. So if size prop is not set, then order kicks in. So this is my projects button variant on outline. Yeah, this is fine, but I don't want it to be full width. Also, I want the size to be reduced to XS. And yep, now if I go, this is inline. If you want to read more about flex, you can go on Mantine documentation. So this is the gap. So we went for gap with XS, right? Justify it to be center, brings it in center. Align center, keeps it in center. And these are the defaults. So you technically don't really need to define direction row and wrap. It should still work. So now this is my button and this is my projects. They are inline, taking up less space. Okay. Next thing, what else? Then after this, we do this whole projects dot length equals to 0, group, justify center, loader, type oval. Uh, I think you can define a size to this as well. So a smaller loader. Let me check if, yeah, you can have a size. Oh, that needs to go in number. So I can kind of do 18. Okay. Actually, we can go a bit more low to 12. Okay. Then grid, too much space here again. So I want this gutter size to be XS and margin top to be SM. Projects.map. This is fine. This is fine. Okay. Let's see how it looks. Okay. The space between these two cards has reduced. Now we need to make this card a bit more small. So shadow Excel, reduce the shadow. With border is fine, padding of XS, and the radius is fine. So we have reduced the padding right here. We can, this view details button and this title, they can come inline. So we can use a group. Okay, so this is another thing that I can show you. So what we achieve with flex there, we can try and achieve it with group. Just same thing, different ways. Order 6 will make it H6, and the link tag that we have here, and I can take it up here. Don't need this group anymore. And now inside this group, we can do position. I think pos. Yeah, position apart. Or actually, don't need this. We can just do a justify equals to space dash between. Okay, there we go. There's space between them, and this button is too big. Title, this is fine. Link is will not have any styles to it, but the button variant, I think you have multiple options. There's also option of subtle, if you see. So it does not have a border around it, and we can define the size to be, let's say, compact XS. Yep, teeny tiny, and that's it. Cool. So that's our button done. Group. Uh, then we have our project description. Now we can be smart here. We can just say that if project description and so we'll only show it when project description exists, otherwise not. So that will again help us reduce some space. The additional line when there is no description provided will be gone. If yeah, if there is no description provided, right? Okay. uh Text size is SM, could reduce it to XS, and that is our project description done. Project tags, margin top, too much. We can give something called as, I think, spacing exists. Oh, actually, no, not really needed. Uh, Badge key equals to index. We don't need variant and gradient. So key is index, and we can define a size to be XS, and on all sides, I think this is fine. But actually, M equals to, I think you can also do margin in negative numbers. Yeah, I think that's too sticking too much. Okay, cool. So this is our card now. Uh, Taken away all the fluff from here and made it very compact, very small, very compact. Now let's go into view details. This is again too big. So let's try and make this one up like just compact. So I'm going to close all of this. We'll start from app.jsx and we'll go into project info. Okay. So project info would be the first parent that we visit. Uh, Container, we will reduce the padding on all sides to be 0. Group, we can, I think, do position here. Actually, not needed. Group. If you do justify, hmm, let me copy this over actually, because we're technically doing the same thing. So let's just do that. Okay, there we go. Uh, don't need this margin bottom, and order 6 is fine. Button compact XS, navigate, and instead of back to project, we can just call it back. Okay, cool. I think this is good. So small and works. Okay. So this one is done. The divider, this is fine. My, uh, we can remove the margin. Okay. So now it's sticking more on the top. Uh, yep, this is fine. And then links and links dot length. This is size. Okay, yeah, no links yet. Grid gutter. Uh, we can reduce the gutter size here. XS. We don't have any other card, so it's not really visible here. Loader type dots, size is fine. Okay, divider again, we can make this my to be 0, and that should, yeah, reduce the spacing here. So everything is becoming more and more compact. No Q&A yet. uh, that is, the text size is already small. Grid gutter can be reduced to XS again. uh, and the cards, okay, so we now need to make changes in the link card and in the Q&A card. These are the two things left. Shadow, going to go for the smallest one. Padding is large. I'm going to give a number of 4. So so now everything is kind of stretched out. There's much more space. Radius is fine, width border is fine, and you can also give it a max width. Okay, so if you do MAW, which is the max width, and I say like the max width is going to be 320, so this is what will happen. Okay, you can kind of specify what should be the max width. Instead of 320, I think we went for 400, so I'm going to go with 400, and this is the max allowed width. uh, this is fine. Order 6 can be order 4 can be order 6, so that the title is smaller. uh, Group, justify space between. uh, this is fine, this is fine. Link and nodes, and I'm going to make this small XS. Link, we used an anchor. Oh, did I tell you previously? I am not sure. Like, basically, instead of having a text and link, Mantine provides an anchor tag, which does the exact same thing as a tag. So we could use this, and it also allows us to style it. So that's better alternative. Oh, not on screen. Cool. Yeah. Anchor tag allows us to style it and also gives us all the properties that a tag gives us. Cool. So link tag, uh, yeah, the tags. We need to make some changes here. Empty margin top. You can just say 1 here. Oh, also, instead of calling this link.notes will show the notes, this URL. The href could be the URL, and here we can just say link, and here we can, in the Q&A one, we will call it Q&A. So link should still take us to the link, but it now will be a smaller name. Badge color is fine. You can give the size as XS. And there is also a variant that exists. You can make a variant light. So then it becomes like this. Okay. I think that looks pretty cool. I think you can give it a size as well. I do XS. Yeah, a smaller size. Okay. So now our link cards are going to be this small, max width this. And yeah, I would say it's still readable, but also from an extension perspective, it is fine, okay, perfectly sized. Now, similarly, we'll also need to make changes in the Q&A card. Let's do that as well. So that before the end of this session, we are all on the same page. Container, uh, oh, link card. I was like, wait, why is this so different? Adding or radius MD with border and max allowed width would be 400. Space between, this would be order 6. uh, XS gray, group Q&A, answer instead of SM, let's go for XS Q and QA dot answer. So whatever is the answer, the URL. So instead of showing this huge URL, we will just say Q&A link. Okay. And also we can again appropriately size it so it's small enough. Link dot tags is fine. Group margin top of, let's say, just 1. Okay, I think that's too squished. Margin top of 2. Okay, yeah. think we should also give this one a margin top of like 1 or something, or my of 1. Okay. Similarly, I'll copy this over to the link as well. Oops. Okay. So there's some spacing. It's not too squished. Cool. Uh, Here also I'm going to copy that over. Badge color is red. That is fine. But the size and the variant I'm going to copy. Back. And for something that does not have details, yep, this is fine. Back. Something that has details, yep, this is fine. Perfect. So let's do a build again. npm run build. Let's build our extension. That should be built now. And now let's load it. So I'll go over to extensions, remove the previous one. Should have updated the version number. Let me do it again, and then I'll build it again. So 0.1.1 is the newer version. Let's build it. Load unpacked. One stop extension build. Select 0.1.1, my new extension number, extension version number. This, this. Okay, perfect. I think that's nicely styled. Click on view details, and there we go. Yep, good. View details. Ah, perfect. So I think that that looks good. The sizing I think is appropriate. Maybe a bit more spacing here and there if required. Uh, like I think slight spacing. In where did it go? This was the main page, right? So in projects, project list, uh, project card, and in this group can have a margin top of 2, which is what we have done everywhere else. Now I'll have to build it again. Uh, npm run dev, okay, yep. So there's slight spacing between this and this. npm run build extensions, remove this one, yes, remove, and now load unpacked again. One stop extension, choose, pin it, open it. Yep, I think, yeah, it's fine. Okay, so that's our extensions done. And yeah, any questions, anyone? Any questions so far? Still have like 10 minutes, but I think I will give you back those 10 minutes for the time being, for the day. Uh, we have done like what, 4 sessions in 2 days. I think that's hectic enough. Let me push all these changes that I have made in the UI. We have successfully created an extension. I think that is a major feat. Okay? Created an extension, styled it, loaded it, can see it, works. It is fetching data from an API, which is running locally right now, but it is fetching it properly from an API. Uh, that's a good thing. Second thing is it is kind of responsive, also compact, and we have a front end which uses the same code, different style, but most of it was kind of transferable. Okay, so we will continue building our front end. Once that is done, we'll transfer everything that we have built over to one stop extension, and that's how we'll end this whole cycle of our projects. Okay, by the end of session 6, we will have everything kind of up and running and sorted, uh, and deployed. Okay, and deployed. That's the main thing. Now, before I go, there are two more things. Number one is feedback. Okay, so as always, asking for feedback for this session. Hopefully, you registered at the start of the session. I definitely pointed that out quite a few times. That please, please, please register for the session. If you have not, I don't know if the link will still be open. Uh, but feedback, yes, there we go. The link is in the chat. This was GHW session, Chrome extension session 4. If you go over to the extension, over to the uh, feedback form, choose session 4. It should take 5 minutes of your time to just give me feedback on how this session went. Uh, you know, do you like it, not like it, uh, any constructive criticism that you have uh, that can help me improve, definitely pass it over. If you like everything about the session, give me a shout in the feedback form that you liked it very much. If you didn't like it, let me know what you did. Like, let the team know, let the MLH team know, and they will relay back the feedback to me. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to any feedback that I receive from you all. Uh, I'll definitely try my best to work on it. And now, join Jocelyn in building your first AI SaaS, part one. Okay? So AI SaaS, I think that is going to be the next big thing. Or it is kind of currently a big thing, but a startup styled AI SaaS is what Jocelyn is going to help you build. So definitely join Jocelyn. And with that, I think that's the end of session. Unless there are any questions, anyone? Any questions? Anything? Okay. Going to take the silence as golden. Thank you so much, people, for joining. And as always, I appreciate you staying around and building this project with me. Okay. Cheers. All the code will be okay. Let me push. Did I not push it? cd.slash git status. Yep. Git add. Git commit dash m. Okay. Yep. All the code should now be there. All the updated code. Customized one stop extension. Yes. Okay. Cool. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Cheers. Bye bye. Have a good weekend. But definitely join Jocelyn. Thank you so much.